Welcome to this video series on the Epistles of Paul. We're going to look today about the format of the letters. This series discusses ancient Roman letter writing. Who wrote? Why did they write? What particular things did they say in their letters? We covered this in section 1. The second section deals with the format of rhetorical letters. The third session is to look at Paul's use of styles of other Roman philosophers and their writings, specifically the Cynics. The fourth part deals with the emotions in Paul's epistles, and the fifth part deals with the histories. That is, the historical records. Is it a historical biography? Is it a straight historian? We're going to look at how that was looked at in Roman times versus histories today, which are a different type of information. And we'll look at how that impacts how we view Acts 17. Well, let's start with the Epistles of Paul and the formative letter. This is the second part, which looks at the rhetorical letters versus Paul letters. Now, the great rhetorical writers, teachers, Aristotle, Cierco, Quintilian, still have devotees today. People write rhetorical letters to convince juries in judicial matters, to sway people in making better future actions, that's in public speaking, to praise or to have some sort of public statement to honor people. Now, let's look at how a general format of a business letter or any letter might be in Hellenism. You would have an opening, a body, a formal opening, connective transition forming, eschatological comments, and a travelogue. Now let's look at then you would have a parenthesis, vocative request, please help me, do something, closing, a greeting, which might include a greeting, a doxology, a benediction. So let's go through it again. The Hellenistic letters had an opening. Hi, I'm Joe, a body. I'd like you to do such and such in a business letter. A parenthesis, a vocative crest. Oh, be careful with yourself in a closing. Take, bye for now. This sort of format, we do it today even in our email letters. Now, the epistles, for example, of Timothy, will have an opening format. Paul, Silvanus, Timothy, to the church, and addressees, to the church of Thessalonian, God, the Father, and the Lord Jesus Christ. A greeting, grace and peace, a remembrance or a health wish, and a thanksgiving. Paul then goes on to the body of the letter, and he covers various things there. Exactly how we view the body of the letter determines on whether we think Paul is writing as a judicial matter. Is he trying to sway people right and wrong, which is genus deliberative or deliberate rhetoric? Is he trying to swell people by honors or dishonor, which is a genus demonstrative or a demonstrative? So let's look at it. The subject matter of a judicial, as you see in jury writings, is right or wrong. The function is accusative or defense. Are you the prosecutor or the defense? The primary aspect time is the past. The lines of argumentation are drawn in the courtroom, draw the inference from facts, and the situation for communicating is either your prosecutor or the advocate for the defense. If you sway people with right or wrong, and that's the deliberate rhetoric or the genus deliberatium in Latin, the subject matter is an advantage or disadvantage for the person. You're trying to recommend or dissuade. Your time scale is in the future. Please do this because it'll be better for you in the future. Your lines of argumentation come from examples. You'll see that in Paul. And your situation for communicating is either a public oration before assembly or like these Paul's letters where it might be read in a church. To sway people by honor or dishonor is a demonstrative or a rhetoric for demonstrative. The subject is honor or dishonor. You're looking to praise or blame someplace. Your aspect is what's happening. I praise you because you paved the city walks, and now I can no longer have to trip or fall in a hole when I travel across the sidewalk on campus. The idea is to amplify the good and help people want to celebrate that type of honor. It's usually done in Greek in oration, in a festive or a casual gathering. Again, you're praising someone. It's a speech of praise. Now, the components of judicial rhetoric have a certain form, and these were defined early by these great rhetoricians. They are an exordium, an introduction where the character of the speaker is given, and he defines the central issues, or she defines the central issues. There's the narratio, their narration, where a statement of facts of the case are given. Again, you have your lawyer, the lawyer comes up and states the facts. Then there's the prostitutio, where he states points of agreement and disagreement and central issues to be proved. Again, you'll see that in legal statements today. The probatio, or the confirmation, develops a single argument. The refatio rebutes the opponent. You see this as cross-examination in some TV genres, or in the courtroom that you might observe. And the peratio, the conclusion, summarizes the case and invokes a sympathetic response. We see this as the closing statements in juries today. Now, the various key writers, Aristotle, Cierco, Quintilian, gave different versions in their writings. Aristotle felt everything had to have an exordium, a statement, a narrative, a proof, and an epilogue. Cierco felt about the same part with the exortatum, the narratio, the narration of the facts, the partio that gives the details and sets out the case, the confirmatio, which gives you the proof, and the refutatio, which reflects it. It also was called the confutiato, the response, and the conclusion. Quintilian gives a judicial and a deliberate form, where he has again the prometium, which is the Greek for exartium, the narratio, the statement that introduces the speaker, determination, as we went back here for the statement of facts, the provision, which is equivalent to the probatio, or the statements of the facts, but it's the things of the case for the people to do something better. Let me propose that we sin no more and follow the Lord. Paul is giving some proposition. He gives a proof in his protatio, and in that he first states the facts, and then he gives a proof for it, and then he gives a summary. So let's look again at the genesis of deliberatum. In the genus deliberatium, or deliberate rhetoric, you're swaying people for right or wrong. You're just recommending or dissuading people from doing wrong things. You're focusing on future events, even if you provide past recollections. You provide examples, and they might be read in a church assembly or some other assembly if they're not performed. Again, just as I mentioned, the character of the speaker is given and defines the central elements. That's why Paul introduces himself, Paul, Timothy, and Silas. And he talks about, as we mentioned in our first statement here, to the church of Ephesus in God, greetings. And he may give his own qualifications, servant of the Lord, an apostle called by God. That sets his character. Now, when we get to the narratio, you get the chief facts of the case. He's going to lay down his discussion on what he wants to say. He's going to give a prosatio, which gives points of agreement and disagreement. He's going to give limits of the argument. He's not going to give all the things. He's going to say, okay, I'm going to answer this question you have, this question. Now, the interesting part in 1 Thessalonians is he gives a bit of an introduction that has some emotions and recalls these things that happened in Thessalonica. He then develops a certain central argument as proof and summarizes the case. You will find that at the end. Now, what's overlaid on top of all of that is the Jewish context of remembering. A key culture of the minority Jewish culture in the first century was God's culture to remember. The Passover was something they remembered. Remember, we were in Egypt as slaves. They say it, no, I was in Egypt as slaves. Not we, not my ancestors back there, but I was there. That is a part of a remembering. The Passover, as they repeat even today, the Passover summary, puts every Jew there, puts the person there. So as Paul used the same Jewish remembering for Christians, it put every Christian in the Passover, in the new Israel, in Jesus' death and resurrection. In that remembering, there is both thanksgiving, thanks to the Lord, and then thanks to the Lord that he has given us bread to eat, for his love endures forever, some sort of thanksgiving, and then another prayer request. This is a sort of Jewish remembering. This is overlaid on the same format as we had in the deliberative or deliberate rhetoric. It fits within it. It's part of the way of arguing. It's part of the way of recalling. It's part of the way of thinking. So I've introduced it the same, but it is, in some senses, different. Well, these are all the components of Paul's letter. Next, we'll look at how Paul in Thessalonians may have overlaid his styles to replicate other Greco-Roman philosophers, precisely diachrososome. And this is a bit of a fun for his audience. People who well learned would recognize the philosopher, recognize his dialogue, his paper, his writing, and perhaps laugh a bit as Paul used some of the same things in order to make a delightful point. Well, thank you for listening to part 2, and next we will continue with Paul's use of the styles of other Greco-Roman philosophers in part 3.